We're almost ready to get started here. It's right at 10 o'clock, so it's good to see everyone here. We got some industry experts. There's some uh, turbulence happening within the industry with the ending of the ITC, December 31st, 2025. And we've already seen some contractors already at capacity for 2025, looking for 2026 to be able to make sure that their messaging changes, their loan offerings are changing, even they're moving to TPO, right? So we're seeing a lot of these things happening, and whenever there's industry change, there's opportunity, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Just kind of set the stage where it's not all gloom and doom. It's really we can see light. It's about the future is bright. So let's go ahead and I'm Dean Caravalotti. I am the host of Solar Slopes. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Solar Insure, where we have a suite of SI30 products that are second to none in the industry for solar and battery warranty. And I'm here with DJ, Doug, and Gunther. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give us just a little bit about their experience in the industry. DJ, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Excited to be here. DJ Strader. I'm the VP of Business Development over at Solo. We specialize in sales enablement and dynamic proposals. You guys might have heard of us in this space. We do pretty decently. But yeah, excited to have this conversation. Lots changing. BBV is a big deal, and like you said, huge opportunity for us all to grow.
Absolutely. Okay, Doug, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Doug Pierce. I'm with Sungage Financial. I started my solar journey way long ago, about 17 years ago, with a solar installer, and I've been with Sungage now for a little over 7 years. It's been exciting to watch all the changes. I know not all of them have been welcomed, fun changes, but the solar coaster has been a fun ride. And I manage our national inside and outside sales team, as well as our RevOps team that is really like a pipeline management resource for our installer partners.
All right, thank you, Doug. Gunther.
I'm Gunther Fischli. I am the Chief Operating Officer for PayKeeper, and PayKeeper is a company that improves trust in the money flow. So we help protect homeowners, lenders, sales companies, and solar companies.
Awesome. Great. Love to hear that. So let's go ahead and appreciate them taking the time out of their day to be able to do this. This is definitely going to be inspiring. You're going to learn something today, more than just one thing, because there's some really exciting things that we're going to talk about. So, hey, we have this cliff that we talk about with the ITC changing, right? And this is a challenge, and it has been a challenge in the past when we've seen things change. And really, at the same time, though, we learned a lot from those the mistakes that once made then, and we're much more well prepared now. So I'm going to ask you to start off with you, Doug. What do you think the ITC cliff means for our industry at large?
I think the at its core, it's an opportunity to innovate and adapt to the industry. Also, there's going to be some changes in how we as an organization, as an industry, really kind of communicate the value proposition to our homeowners. And I think one of the key pieces, as all the big beautiful bill changes came through, was concerns of is solar going to be a viable resource for homeowners to meet their energy goals. And the reality is, I think there's going to be a little bit of a pivot from this monthly savings conversation to more of a lifetime savings reality. Again, there's been a lot of adaptation since I've been in solar. It's part of why I love this industry, because it's never the same and constantly changing. And that excitement, I think, is an opportunity for us to grow and innovate as an organization.
Excellent. Love that perspective, DJ.
Yeah, and I mean, we're full of like the best sales guys, I would say, like in the nation. I mean, the solar sales guys are so nimble. They're so well adapted. Not every industry is going to be able to live on subsidies forever unless you're petro. So it's an interesting change. The guys that stick with it, the great sales guys that we have in our space, they're going to adapt. They're going to thrive. And I'm actually excited for it. I'm excited for the change. We've got a clear path ahead of us now that we know what's going on with the BBB. Yeah, I mean, with the group that we have here, like the software that's available in the space, I think that we'll empower each other and we'll have a great 2025 or 26.
Awesome. Love it. What are your thoughts, Gunther?
I think that it's time for us to get a little bit more efficient, a little bit more careful. Um, if we need to trim the fat on the revenue side, we better be trimming the fat on the expenses side. And I think it's a good time for best practices for I think the companies that are serious about that and do things right will survive, and some won't. But I think this is a wake up call for everybody to get really lean and very efficient.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see that. And maybe we don't call it the cliff. We call it the sunset because after the sunset, the sun always rises, right? Awesome. So another question is, you guys are in this space and you're dealing with partners, contractors, all throughout the country. And what are you hearing about 2026? I'll start with you, Gunther. Yeah.
I think that there are a lot of things that are up in the air. It will be interesting to find out how competitive the TPO offerings are going to be. Once there's less competition, it's going to be interesting how competitive installers are going to be. It's still to be seen what the cost of operating your business. So that there's a lot up in the air. I don't think that um, 2026 is written in stone. And even if you look by market, looking at what are your competitors going to do, what are their offerings going to be. So I think that it's maybe we need to be aware of what's going on in the macro. But I think looking inward at our company and finding the efficiencies inside is probably the most important thing to do, because there's just a lot that we don't know.
All right. EJ.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point, Gunther. I think a lot of these groups should focus on their balance sheet and cash before growth. But the vibe that I get is pretty mixed. We're seeing like 50% of the groups like super excited, super heads down on, the prospect of solar and renewables being, a viable product for homeowners going forward into the future, even past 2031 and some of the other, implications of 48E. And then there's other groups that are a little bit more hesitant, like they're looking at adjacent verticals. Um, all good stuff though, because I think a lot of these adjacent verticals, um, really capitalizes the opportunity with the homeowner. A lot of these the buying personas that these sales reps are used to, like, they're not just interested like in solar. They're also interested in HVAC. They're also interested in maintaining their roof, which is if you really think about it, is another type of energy product for their home that everybody needs. So I think some of these other battery only is another one. Huge opportunity for people that are like minded on renewables in the environment. So huge opportunities. And the guys that stick with it, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, are really going to capitalize.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same. I think, right after the bill was passed, I think there was this kind of opinion that TPO was kind of came out of this unscathed. And now we're starting to really see the realities of kind of how all of those pieces with fiat and tax equity exchanges and 10-year clawbacks instead of 5, there's still a lot of pieces and dust that needs to settle on that side. So what we're seeing is a lot of our installers, like you mentioned, pivoting to additional verticals to really look at more of the energy picture of the home versus just, I'm just going to go all in on solar. And what that means for Sungage specifically is we're adapting our products to finance those things. We're changing the structure of our loan a bit to really bridge the gap of being able to sell that long-term lifetime savings versus just a monthly beat the bill kind of mentality year one. And we're seeing a lot of folks just adapt and really look inward. I mentioned in one of our pre-calls that I went through this process a few years ago when I was at my previous company called value stream mapping. And we really segmented all the individual pieces of our business, from lead comes in all the way to we've interconnected the system. and how did we celebrate that milestone for the consumer, and looking at every individual milestone along the way to figure out how can you get more efficient, how can you make that leaner from a financial perspective, and manage your business a little bit more tightly than we were before. So I think we're hearing a lot of installers going through those similar things, and mostly been optimistic for 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it is mixed, like I would say what DJ would say as far as from the different perspectives. Some I've heard that they're retiring. Now I'm gonna retire this year. I'm not gonna be in solar anymore. I'm getting out of the industry. We even see large sales organizations leaving the industry. But guess what? That means opportunity for those who stay to gain more market share. And the other thing I'm really excited about is that this pivot, this shift is going to help with consumer protection. And because solar is not going to be treated like a one-time transaction anymore, this is a lifetime commitment that a contractor is making to the homeowner, and they want that lifelong relationship because it gets them into the different verticals, right? They're thinking they're going to need a roof in 10 years. That maybe they'll need a battery down the road, or maybe they need a battery right now. Maybe they need HVAC, right? So all of these things that are really that kind of like stained our industry, I think are going to kind of like be like kind of erased, I believe, with the ones who are long tail contractors that really want to take care of the homeowner. And I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. But now let's talk about, we talked a little bit about that the 2025 pipeline is getting full. So what do you think the message should change to? What are you seeing your partners do, or what are you helping your partners be able to do when it comes to that? Let me ask you, Doug.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the first thing that we did was, when you think of, to your point of taking care of the consumer and making sure homeowners are happy, is setting the right expectation. We all share a piece of that conversation, right? So sales reps are out there setting expectation with the homeowner at the kitchen table and talking about the product and the savings and things like that. And then on the lending side for Sungage, we wanted to make sure that we really disassociate the loan with the ITC. So we did that in July, I believe. And we've been moving forward and making sure that all the disclosures and conversations we're having with homeowners are preparing them for what a 2026 install would look like versus a 2025 install. So I think at its core, it's making sure that the consumers themselves understand what product they're getting and what they're buying into. And then, the other part of that is making sure, we do this a lot with our vetting process. If you really distill it all down to what we're focusing on when we're looking to work with new installer partners, it's really, aside from the obvious stuff of, what's their background look like? What do their financials look like? Are they in a good cash position to be able to weather this type of environment? But it really comes down to, do they care about their customer, and do they care about their brand? And to the point of being able to go back to consumers, in a future world of adding batteries, panels, HVAC, things like that, the companies that have invested in making sure that the customer experience has been, a high priority for them. We view those as the ones that are be the most successful going forward, because they're able to go back to that customer multiple times for other products.
How about you, Gunther?
So because of the role the PayKeeper plays, we've had a spike in interest. We're onboarding a lot of solar companies over the last couple of months, and they're telling us, and of course, for people that don't know PayKeeper very well, we are uh, we're an escrow company, so we stand in the middle to make disbursements of funds when milestones are met. So we've had several sales companies come to us and say, "Look, I'm going to be selling through 25 into 26, and I want to make sure that if I'm delivering deals to this contractor, I want to make sure that when the loan funds come through, I get the money. Doesn't just go to the contractor and then I don't get it." So, and then the contractor is saying, "I want to make sure that we get direct pay, we get things clean." And so we have seen, when I talk about the inward kind of cleaning, make sure that the operations are tight. I'm speaking not in an aspiration way, but based on what I've seen. My phone is ringing like crazy because a lot of these contractors are saying, there's going to be people falling off. There's going to be companies disappearing. And I want to make sure that I get paid. I want to make sure that my homeowner's contract is fulfilled. And so I think that there's this anxiety in the space that some people are not going to make it. And is it going to be you? Is it going to be you? Who is it going to be? And so I think that's why there's been a huge influx of demand. So that's a reality, I think, in the industry today.
I love that. Building trust, right within the transactions. That's something that really is going to be pivotal as we see, a lot of the landscape change between the solar contractors. How about you, DJ? You have any observation on that?
Yeah, my only observation is that I wish there was a way for us to streamline permits and get as many people in the door that are interested in receiving that tax credit as a residential homeowner. We are trying to work with Solar App on some of that and scale with them so that we can get faster permitting. But I mean, at the end of the day, as far as like our technology and what we offer, just offering like a streamlined process, helping them reduce change orders, which reduces the time to install, partnering with key guys like, PayKeeper and Sungage and yourself, they're getting like good high quality products that they can rely on. I mean, inevitably, not everybody's going to be able to get in that window like we had hoped, but our staff, and I'm sure the staffs of all the companies here on the stage, are going to do everything we can to help support as many installs to the homeowners as possible.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. So I want to kind of unpack this a little bit because we talked about this a little bit already. But how is the messaging going to change after the incentive expires? Because a lot of people are selling 2026 installs right now. So how are you helping your partners do that? What are some of the motivations that will make a homeowner say yes to a 2026 installation? Ellie, you drive.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick first. So the one big beautiful bill empowers the utilities to make changes in costs whenever they want, and we're already seeing that. We're seeing that in New York. We're seeing that in California, Utah, the state we're in today. I think they proposed 20% and they voted in 6%. So Oregon, I know, is going up. I mean, across the nation, we kind of like re-monopolized some of these utilities to increase prices, drive that inflation of utility costs. So there's still going to be a great ROI in the future for renewables. And, uh, people in America love ownership. They love to be able to own their car, their house, etc., their power. And I think that's going to play a bigger part in the future as you see like more natural disasters, more implications with the environment, where people want to have more peace of mind by having that product on their home and hopefully drive down costs and get a reasonable ROI against the utilities.
I love it. Doug, let's go right down the line here.
Yeah, so we're really innovating more on the product side for us to navigate the changes and really change some of the cash flows around these different loan products. The first thing we're doing is in the next few weeks offering a 36-month deferral product. The goal is, to your point, as utility prices are rising, gives a really easy entry point from a monthly payment standpoint for homeowners to allow those energy prices to rise and feel some of that reality in those bills. The other thing we're doing is we're getting ready to launch an escalator product that kind of like a TPO product, where the payment would escalate at a set amount over time.
But it's a loan.
It is a loan, yeah. So you get the benefits and all the flexibility of a loan, where you can go back to the homeowner in the future, add panels, add other products, things like that. And that product, I think, is going to be really unique, particularly without the ITC, because there've been other loan products like that out there. But the ITC, while it was great, it really complicated that like at the kitchen table discussion of what's this look like from a monthly payment standpoint. So we're having the ability to kind of have a product that'll fit those needs. Other things we're doing are adding longer terms. So today, for our solar loans, they go up to 25 years. We're going to be adding a 30-year product here soon, again, to drive down monthly payment and provide kind of a longer runway for those things there. And, get into different verticals. So we're in the beta right now of a solar plus home efficiency product with a couple installers. We just had our first few pools roll through today and yesterday. So that's been fun to see. And we're going to be scaling that across the country to give folks those flexibilities. I mean, as an aside to just solar, I think there's a reality that a lot of our installers are going to want to, pair solar with other home efficiency products. But there's also a ton of customers that they have today, well, they've already sold solar and they want to go back and just do home efficiency. So we're working on a product we'll bring to market early next year to be able to jump into the home efficiency space there as well.
I love that, the role that financing is playing in helping the market be more stable. And we applaud Sungage Financial for their innovation. Also with PayKeeper for protecting homeowners. And now let me ask you, Gunther, why is escrow critical for consumer trust post-tax credit?
Well, it's obvious on a cash deal. Instead of writing a 50% deposit to the contractor, you can put an escrow. The contractor only gets paid when the work is done. That's great. Of course, that is and not only the homeowner but the contractor now, because a lot of contractors love using the loan products because I submit some pictures, documentation, get paid really quick. We keep a really innovative by bringing that efficiency to the cash deals, but but in the world we're in right now, I think that the lenders that are using PayKeeper as a partner to pay the sales companies, to pay the direct pay the suppliers, and really not give the contractor the money that is not theirs. That has been the downfall of a lot of contractors. They get, oh, we got $2 million in the bank. Well, guess what? 2 million of those is not yours, buddy. And before we get on ganging up against contractors, anybody that has not ran a 300-person operation, that you have receivables coming in at different timelines, you don't really know exactly what you have in your warehouse. You need to close the mouth to know you're at. It's not that simple. For people to say, oh, how come you don't know? Well, it's not that simple. It's complicated. So I think that when we simplify the life of the contractor. We make it easy for them to collect the money. We make it easy for him to keep track of his money. You're protecting the homeowner. You're protecting the sales guy. You're protecting the industry, the name, the reputation of the industry. So I think that's a crucial part that we're playing at this time.
All right, awesome. No, I love that. And let's get right into the next topic that we want to talk about today, and that's how can we help the providers and contractors that we work with be lean operators, and why is it important to have a great relationship with your vendors? I'll start with you, DJ. Like, I want you to
Yeah, lean operators. Yeah, good question. I mean, I said a little bit earlier, but getting groups. Our industry has tons of entrepreneurs, super ambitious guys. Like getting into this space has always been so surprising. How many people want to go out and like build their own things, expand, higher, 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 be the biggest in the nation. And those are big risks, and those are risks that entrepreneurs and ambitious guys take. But I would say going, forward in the future, I would suggest a lot of these groups, focusing on their cash flow, focusing on their books, making sure that they're, making the right financial moves. Like Gunther just said, they have $3 million in the bank, 2 million of that is not even theirs. So I think small little business moves and the increasing business acumen within the industry is going to really pay dividends in the long run. Focus on your areas, make sure that they're super tight before you move on and expand. A lot of guys in our space want to kind of chase the money and go to these new markets that open up that have new incentives, and they're immediately hiring guys, meaning getting trucks out. And I think what we've seen in the past, a lot of these guys have gotten too much overhead too quickly, and then their business turns into a little Ponzi scheme, and they don't know how to get out of it. So, our suggestion would be, keep home base, your center mass, make sure that your books are looking really good and clean, hire wisely, partnership with the right people, and expand at your means instead of try to rule the world on day two.
Love it, love it. How about you, Doug?
Sure. Yeah. I think one of the things we found to be really, valuable to our partners is just access to data. I think on a installer side, the data they have is very specific to themselves. And they don't have this kind of bird's eye view of, what's working for others and what should I be striving towards for different metrics inside of our business. So, one of the key things we found helpful is we provide a lot of milestone data specific to our installers, and then we zoom out and share those things regionally. So, a good example is install, approval to install. What's that timeline look like? And that can vary wildly from a place like California to Texas to New York based on permitting and utility timelines and things like that. But inside your own market, you can glean a lot of information of how you're stacking up against your competitors and areas that you can improve. So we share data like, what's your install timeline? What's your, you've installed it to get to PTO, those types of things. And the faster you can make those, the more profitable you are. And also the better customer experience your customer is having there.
Can you tell me like the difference in cost of money if someone is like 30 days difference from getting the PTO with their, and how much does that really cost a contractor? Does it cost them any more money?
I guess it depends on a few things. So generally we do as a commonplace 100% at install. So there's really not like an additional amount of money waiting out there for PTO. Now we do have some contractors in some parts of the country where that is the case based on risk factors and things like that. So in some cases it's just you've got this carrot hanging out there. You want to go get that carrot, so you need to speed that up. I think the less obvious piece is, homeowners get frustrated when they know that the money is out the door and they don't have electrons and the savings value proposition that they're looking for. So to me, there's an opportunity cost of making sure that those homeowners got what they paid for quickly so that you can go back to them and work with them for referrals, and they're willing to work with you in the future when you want to add products and things like that.
All right, thank you. Gunther, you have any thoughts on the question about lean operators? Okay, great. So what are some top 1 to 2 things that signals that the contractor looks like they're going to survive 2020 into 2026? And we touched on it a little bit, but what are some 1 or 2 things that you would see in a contractor like, I want to partner with them?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll take a shot. So I would say people that are adopting compliance. And one, I think that there's a lot of topics within compliance, but managing money, PayKeeper, offering an opportunity to manage money even wiser. Using products like Recheck. I know Sungage is sort of using that product where they, are validating and verifying sales reps. So nothing fishy is going on, and we can kind of save face in the industry. And I think that the warranties, another one, having a product that supports not just like the EPC, but more importantly, like the homeowner. I think the groups that are meaningfully adopting compliance, they're serious about like the long term in their business. They want to be around for the next 20, 25 years, like you had said. These are long term products that the EPC is attached to. And also, we should start building long term customers. The solar's kind of brought up in like the door to door world, where it started off with pest control, then we had alarms and home automation, and kind of like evolved into the same guys, a lot of the same guys selling solar now. I think that culture has been used to like getting in, getting the sale, and getting out. Hopefully, I never talk to that lady again. That type of mentality. But we're leaving cash on the table. Not only as just as a sales rep, but also as an industry. And we're creating a better reputation for the industry, which has been under fire as of late, as you guys know. And also everybody's happier. You get a long-term customer, you make more money, you give them more products, they save more money. Like, it's the circle of life. And I think that guys that are adopting that down to the compliance point are really gonna do quite better than others.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. With the one thing that I would add aside from recheck is, we communicate a lot with our homeowners, and I don't know what that's very common inside of the lending space, and we find that homeowners are very quick to tell you when they're upset. They're also, to some degree, happy to tell you when they're happy, but you definitely get more negative feedback than positive feedback. So we communicate constantly with our homeowners as they're going through the financing process, because really they're the canary in the coal mine, right? As we're looking and tracking installer risk to see this installer has never really had customer complaints. All of a sudden, their complaint ratios are up from 5% to 30%. What's going on here? So we can really lean in and take a peek there. Back to the recheck piece, it's been interesting because going out to talk to different installers, 2 years ago when recheck was really kind of starting to gain a little bit of notoriety and some momentum, there was kind of two reactions. One was leave me alone, like this is a big overstep. We're not super interested. And then there was also like oh my gosh, I can't wait to have this because I really want to know, doesn't that the sales rep that I just hired have a past that I need to know about? So recheck for us has been a really valuable tool. And we're looking forward to seeing that grow and the industry adopt that at a higher rate. And we're just now getting to the place where we're requiring it as even to gain access to our product, as are a lot of other financial products in the space as well.
I think um, I think knowing our customers the companies that know their customer the best, to touch on what he said here. But it's easy to go almost throughout the whole United States and say, hey, do you want to save 20%? Awesome, great. You don't need to get to know that person very well to know that that's going to work. But people sold solar at $7, and the DITC, as catastrophic as it is for us right now, in a year, we're not going to be talking about that anymore. And the companies that understand their customers, understand how to help their customers reach their goals and meet their needs, the companies that are better at understanding the customer, communicating that, and selling to that, they're going to do just fine. And as been said, solar sales guys are some of the best in the world. The good guys, they're going to figure it out really quick and be successful at it.
And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that compliance. Even Nevada put in place that there's a welcome call, right? So making sure that the homeowner has a welcome call, nothing else has been promised to them. And some companies are just adopting that carte blanche all the way across their business. And they're looking out for the best interest of the homeowner, but also they're protecting themselves from unscrupulous practices of salespeople, right? That are trying to defraud a homeowner. So really, that's super important, right? Consumer protection. And then even at Solar Insure, like whenever something happens like this in the industry, we just tighten up our compliance on our providers, right? And when we look for new providers for 2026, we're looking at, are they selling solar only in solar only states? I don't know if that's a good idea, right? Yeah, because battery adoption is much higher, right? Do they have a service department? Are they taking care of their own customers now? And are they looking to like overexpand, or are they looking to be that regional player that really takes care of their homeowners within their county, their city, whatever area that they're in? I was just in Hawaii last week, and they're on an island. You can't run anywhere. You cannot run anywhere. You're going to see your customers at the store, right? You're going to see them at the ball game, right? Playing with your kids, right? So you got to think of that mentality that if you're going to be that a solar provider, energy service provider, because now you're selling and installing things that run 24/7. It doesn't just work when the sun rises. You're selling products that need to work at night, right? And during the day, and you're making a lifelong commitment. So some of the contractor providers that we work with in Hawaii, they actually pick and choose who they do business with. They have they say, well, this guy seems like he's going to be a lot. I'm not gonna I'm gonna let someone else work with this customer because they know they're gonna have to be there 24/7 if the battery's not working. So really, we've got to change the mindset and look for contractors that are in it for the long term and know that this business is a long-term business, not a one-time transaction. So I'm excited to see that, and that's who I think those one or two things that we can see that are moving forward are going to really help shape the industry. Let me ask you, what do you think the biggest mistake a contractor can make right now?
I can take this one. I think the worst thing you can do, let me step back a second. So I got into solar mainly because the people inside of our industry have been eternal optimists, right? So when I think back to when I first was getting into solar, just the energy of those folks really got me excited to work with them. And I think sometimes what can come with that optimism is the willingness to kind of shy away from what you might find as a bad answer, right? So you can't stick your head in the sand. You need to go out and make sure that you're preparing for the realities of our industry next year because they're coming whether you want them to or not. I think the other part too is making sure that you're diversifying your product line. And I've talked to a lot of installers who are saying we're just going to do solar, and maybe that works in some markets for them, but my general advice would be to try to expand your horizon a little bit. When you think about the solar market, even, at the peak versus what the home improvement space is, it's, the 15, 20x the market. It's a massive, massive market. And I think I saw a stat that there's something like 2 million homeowners, I think you had mentioned this, put HVAC on in their houses last year.
I think it's 5 million. Yeah, 5 million.
That bigger number. So taking advantage of that market is important. And a solar installer has been through one of the more complicated installation processes that exist in home improvement. You're not just installing something, dealing with an electrical inspection and walking away. There's utility implications. The inspection process is quite different. You're getting multiple permits in a lot of jurisdictions. So, it's an easy pivot, in my opinion, to add these additional verticals. So I would just implore everybody to take a good look at other products you can add.
Excellent. Anything, the biggest mistake you could think that someone could make right now?
Yeah, I don't understand the question, Dean. Contractors don't make mistakes. Well, I would just agree to add on to that diversification, super key. Our industry has kind of historically been reactive, like for good reason, lots of changes in solar and renewables, a very political scene for this vertical. So I would say sit tight, build a good business. Don't be overreactive, be wise, diversify. And I think the biggest take home that I'm trying to at least get across to people on our platform and our partners' platforms is like, let's start building like long-term customers. Let's start building long-term value. It should be a requirement that everybody's kids play on the same baseball team, Dean, like you said, or see each other in the grocery store. Because I think that's the type of uh, buying experience that these homeowners should deserve and that they should be a part of. And these sales reps are good enough where they should be able to provide that experience in EPC as well, where they're building like really great. That will go long into the future. That's all I had. That 3 more words.
How about
Yeah, I think they covered. That's it. Yeah.
okay? All right, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, definitely see that now a lean operator doesn't mean you're making less profit. Please, that doesn't mean to lower your costs and try to sell something that will make you go out of business. I think that's like the biggest mistake a contractor can make. One of the biggest ones is thinking that you have to like go down and lean and still not make your profit. You can take a look at all the different soft costs, the different things that are across. Are you using MLPE? Should you use a hybrid string inverter or a string inverter instead? Use less components, but still give a great product that will still give the homeowner the lowest cost of energy for the life of span of the solar or battery system, and give them obviously making sure that they have a protection product built within that. Because if someone's financing a product and there's only a 10-year warranty and they're financing it for 25 or 30 years, that's not going to be a good experience for them long term. And we're all talking about building a long-term business. This is part of that. Yeah. So how about this? Let's talk about how to have the biggest differentiator post ITC, because really everybody wants to protect the consumer and their brand in the industry, right? In order to be able to sell more. Because if someone looks at the company's reviews and they're below 4 stars, the salesperson can say whatever they want, but that homeowner is going to go with somebody that has better customer experience. So my question is, what's your view on how homeowners can be protected who are going solar and getting batteries? How can they be protected going on the future?
I think we touched on this, and maybe I'll steal all the points, but I'll let you guys chime in as well. But consumer protections, we talked about compliance, recheck, verifying, validating sales reps, warranty products, which is I think for this long of a product, 25, 30 years, people are investing in a product like this with some of the loan options that are available. Having a warranty that supports and backs that for the length of that term is kind of a no-brainer, right? Managing money, making sure that your money as a consumer is going to the right places at the right time, with less risk. You can watch YouTube all day long and watch horror stories of contractors that have had disputes with homeowners and run off with money, and that's sure that happens in our industry as well. You mentioned earlier welcome calls as well. Ian. All those things are no-brainer opportunities for our industry, so we can hit that compliance checkbox.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think one thing I would add is, you know, it's I've seen this as a less common in the solar industry compared to other places I've interacted, but I think our sales reps need to continue to be consultative and ask the questions of the homeowner, not, "Hey, this is what I think is best for you, but here's the pluses and minuses of a few different things. What makes the most sense?" At times it feels like, and I've certainly, having been in sales a long time, worked with different sales coaches and tools to improve your sales game. There's this common theme of distilling down what you want to offer a customer to one or two things. The decision is easy. And while I agree with some of that, I think it's important to zoom out a little and make sure that the homeowner, because these are long-term purchases, right, for them, is to make sure that what they're getting is going to fit their forever needs. And if it doesn't and something changes, do they have the flexibility to pivot in the future? So continuing to be consultative, making sure that the homeowner is active in that buying process, that's going to trickle down to the reviews and the overall consumer experience, because they didn't feel like they were shoved into one product or one system size with or without a battery. Really giving them and empowering them to make the right decision for them is going to be good for you, for the businesses long term.
That's right. Great. I'm gonna just add one thing. I think it comes down to the execution. In the end, they're paying you a lot of money to hopefully get this system installed in a timely manner that's going to work out great. That's the end of the game. And anything short of that is frustrating. And I think we all have experienced that as homeowners ourselves. So I think anything that you can do to make sure that the experience is smooth, the communication from all parties, that's what the consumer wants. That's the expectations that we have nowadays.
Yeah, and I agree with all those things. Another thing that I think that can really help protect the homeowner is the the responsibility of the salesperson to the contractor and tying the salesperson to the contractor. There's been a lot of sales organizations and contractors that with their relationship with the sales organization, it's more like an arm's length. We don't want to train them, because if we do, then we're liable for what they do. But they've got to be trained, right, for financial products, for proposal tools. But if we teach them what to say or how to do things, then we're responsible for everything that they do. And this has been a really black eye on our industry, because the control of what's being the message there's not much control, right? So SEIA has brought a code of ethics, right, which is really good. There's also others that have tried to make like training, but the whole thing is, and they've even leveraged it like, hey, this is us telling them how to sell, not you. So you're not responsible for what they say. You can blame it on our training, right? But being compliant, we talk about that. What does that mean, right? What does that mean for our industry and how to protect the consumer on the messaging of what solar battery really is? And that I would say is like one of the biggest chasms that I've seen in the market, where we have seen more of the problems that have been happening. And so regional contractor with inside sales, fully vertically integrated with sales, I believe will be a very successful regional player. And the ones that have those outside organizations have their priorities different than what the priorities of the contractor is. They might have volume, things like that. They're just doing transactions. These regional players with that vertically integrated are building more and more trust. Not to say that these large national companies or those that are using those can't do the same. But we could see it in the reviews. We could see it in what's happening, lawsuits, things like that, where there's a higher risk. So really, I think something around helping the industry around that, getting that message out would be good for us.
Just to add to that real quick, one thing that I found, which is a little surprising, is I think there's a misconception with EPCs and the sales org relationship, where to your point, they really feel like the less they interact, the less risk they have. I would argue it's actually the complete opposite of that, because the reality is in most of these sales org relationships, they're signing a contract under the EPC's name because that's the license that's going to move forward with the project. We've had a number of conversations over the years where the EPC is really kind of tentative to talk to the sales org because they feel like that's a risk tool for them. But the reality is the less you check in and train those sales folks, and there are a lot of really great sales orgs throughout the U.S., but there are a few that aren't, and they can really, really muddy up your business. And I've seen sales orgs put EPCs out of business because they're left holding the bag of a bunch of really poorly sold expectations from a homeowner standpoint.
Yeah, I appreciate your input on that, and that is true, right? There are some really great ones, and there has been some wild, wild west going on, right? Yeah, awesome. So, how do you guys see escrow accounts for cash deals? These loans that are more innovative, and the proposal tools, even warranties, helping differentiate a contractor.
Well, I think one of the things that may happen is we may be seeing some news. This company goes under. There's some homeowners that we're not taking care of. We've seen plenty of that already, unfortunately, and I think we're going to see some more of that. And I think we can talk about it. I think we can actually be open about it and say, look, if these things on the news, these companies are doing this. This is how I'm different. This is the kind of procedures and protocols that we have in place that are different, and we address those things. And I think if this is going to be on the news, we should be comfortable talking about that to our homeowners. And if we're taking the correct steps, we'll be proud to talk about what we're doing to protect them.
Love that.
Yeah, I think consumer protection is extremely important. Right? I think of ways. Could you just ask the question again? I want to make sure I answer.
Yeah. So how can your innovative loan products, help differentiate a contractor to a homeowner?
Yeah, I think for us, it's flexibility and not having a one size fits all type product. I think there are folks that are they're not loan customers, they're cash customers. There's homeowners that are not loan customers, they're TPO customers, and there's ones that are loan customers. So I think one is we encourage our installers to offer what they think is best for the homeowner. And I think that is at its core is really important from a business strategy. Second, specific to us, is we're offering different products, and different payment structures, different terms, different APRs, things like that. So you can triangulate into what is the consumer most interested in and what makes the most sense for them. And then lastly, talking about the stability of if you're going to do a loan, the fintech that you're working with. There's no shortness of bad headlines in the fintech space right now. And I think it's important that we, to your point, are able to talk about it. For Sungage, we focus on being super capital light. We've been in solar for, I think we're around 15 plus years now. We were the first asset-backed solar loan in the space, so we've been doing this a long time. But compliance has always been at the core of what we've done. And I think what we've seen is in a lot of the, well, not speak for all of them, but in a few of the recent headlines, you get to a point where some of the fintechs grew where compliance was a secondary thought and growth was the primary goal. With Sungage, compliance is extremely, extremely important, and it's very high priority. So I think just sharing that consumer experience, showing the reviews of the lenders you're working with, because it's important to see what their experience is going to be like. They're going to have a relationship with the lender in most cases for a decade, 2 decades. And, that's important that they know that they can trust the lender that they're working with.
I would say that, as a sales enablement tool, the summary in one word would just be efficiency. More access to more products, more tools, like we're talking about here on the stage, higher conversion rates, less change orders, better workflow to get to an install. That's what we try to empower our customers with. And, for the most part, we're able to do that. The ones that use our tool correctly and efficiently and train well. But yeah, efficiency is key. And we're kind of talking about like the end of the year and, what projects we can get in and what are going to bleed over into 2026 and even going into 2027 and some of the safe harbor rules up to 2031. Efficiency is going to be key. And what Solo focuses on is partnering with the right people, giving, them access to the right lending tools, the right compliance tools, right warranties, so that they can provide that to their homeowners, in one stop. And like we've talked about, which I think is like the lesson to be learned in this conversation, build that long-term, homeowner that's going to give that 5-star review.
I love that. That's great. And I would say with Solar Insure, what we see helping overcome consumer skepticism, right, due to negative press with it's a financially backed solution, selling on value instead of price, and also helping them have a profitable service department for decades to come, making sure that they, throughout their business, it's not just about warranties, it's about building trust and building profit within the business as well. And so let's go ahead and do a closing takeaway. We'll give 60 seconds on a final question here. What advice would you give to contractors trying to stay ahead in a post-tax credit world? And we'll start with you. You got the mic.
Well, yeah, I think it's really look at what's been working for you and what hasn't. I think making sure that you're focusing on all the aspects of your business from an efficiency standpoint so that you're lean and ready to handle a world where sales may be a little soft in the beginning of next year and moving forward for a little while, and preparing for those things is important. The second is, I think, there's a lot of great salespeople out there in our industry, but there's also a lot of really good sales managers. And I think the sales management side of things is making sure that your sales team is prepared to have these conversations. They've been saying the same things for a long time. And it's easy to get freaked out when you know that your pitch is going to change and you have to develop a new muscle. So I think, sales managers rolling up their sleeves, really figuring out the message that works in your market is important so that you can share that and really, mentor the folks that are on your sales teams.
Yeah, so we have a Korean partner, and one thing they said to me a while ago is, you Americans have a roadmap for 6 months. In Korea, we make a roadmap for the next 20 years. So when I look about, all the changes and how reactive we've been in the market, I would say kind of the short and sweet message is like business acumen, cash before growth, move wisely, hire the right people, vet the people that you bring on. Don't just bring on random sales reps that you haven't vetted and you don't know who they are, and they can ruin a business. And we've seen the last couple years some really strong and powerful businesses in our space that have gone upside down because, like we've talked about, it's been the wild, wild west from some of the sales orgs. And, a couple of those wrong moves can, ruin the reputation of a large business. And they've got AGs going after them, et cetera, et cetera. It's just bad all around. So, build your business roadmap for the next 20 years because these are 20-year plus products, right? Listen to take some advice from the Korean groups that we work with.
Yeah. I'm thinking that for the crowd that is logged in right now and listen to this, you're already 3/4 there. Because you cannot. My advice is just you've done something, you've worked great. Now the world is literally changing, and the people that are out there understanding solutions, understanding what can I do better, how can I improve, how can I change my message. These people are, if you're asking the right questions, actually, that's the thing about the world now. Asking the right questions is like it's all really in your pocket. Ask the right questions, and then you're gonna be there. The people that got their head in their sand or they're paralyzed with fear, they're not gonna do well. But the people that are watching this right now are gonna do fine because they're searching for the solutions and asking the right questions. So I think this is, and I thank you for putting this panel together so often and providing so much information because this is exactly what the industry needs.
All right, with that, we'd like to make it a wrap. We thank everyone for joining and watching today. Solar Slopes, we want to thank Solar Insure for sponsoring Solar Slopes, and also look forward to seeing you next time. If you know somebody who'd want to be on a panel like this in the upcoming months, feel free to reach out to Dean Caravalotti, myself. I'd be happy to entertain that, and look forward to the next Solar Slopes where we'll help you navigate a slope or two, whether it's a black diamond run or something more simple. But we're here to help you to survive and thrive throughout 2026. Thank you all.